TTL Computer II. Today, we're going to take a look at the design of our PCB testing jig. And at the very end of this video, I'm also going to talk about some changes that we're going to make going forward with future PCB board designs based on what I learned in the clock PCB setup. So if that's of interest to you, stay to the end of the video, where that'll be at the end of the video. Okay, so let's jump into looking at our testing jig. So here's our first page of our schematic for our testing jig. We have 3 pages for schematics. And what we're basically going to be doing is kind of making an enhanced breakout board for the card that's going to be tested. So let's go through what those elements are going to be. Okay, so here is this is our card edge connector that the PC boards will plug into, and so you can see we have tunnels for all of those assigned. Now these are going to be breakout headers that are going to that will be connected to the edge card pins. So this will provide us with 64 pins, access to the 64 pins of the header, right? So each of these headers are 16 pins. So we have A1 through 32 here, and we have A1 through 32 here, and we have C1 through 32, and we'll have C1 through 32. And also on our connector, this is going to be where our ground and our power pins are going to be, and they'll also be represented on the breakout headers. All right, so those are going to give us access to each of the 64 pins on the card being tested. And so these headers on the testing jig are all going to provide us like breadboard access to those things. So we'll be able to use jumper wires to connect those up however they need to be connected to test a particular board. We'll see that more as we go forward. Okay, so we're also going to provide 2 buttons on our testing board, so that'll kind of like be able to mimic two clock signals on our testing board. And these are just simple little RC circuits that implemented with the switches, and those are going to be going through a 74 LS14, which is a Schmidt trigger inverter that's just going to be used to help debounce those signals. And then we're going to have 2 LEDs that will allow us to visualize the pressing or the clock pulses for each of those buttons, and the outputs for those will be brought to will be exposed on a header on the board, and that header will give us both a positive signal for button 1 and a negative signal for button 1. Same thing for button 2, a positive pulse for button 2 and a negative pulse. So that'll help us to support both positive and negative active signals, active low signals that we might need on the board. And then we have just our power indicator for the board, and this is going to be our barrel plug connector, power connector for the board, for the testing jig. So one thing that's also good about doing this testing jig is it's allowing us to validate some of the things that we're going to need to do ultimately on our motherboard, on the backplane board. One of those being, again, right, using the barrel connector. We want to make sure that that's all tested before we really get to the backplane design. And it's also going to let us play with the card edge connectors and how they connect to the backplane. and validate that all those things are correct when we're using the testing jig, in advance of going to the final backplane design. Then we have a couple of capacitors that we're going to use. We have bypass capacitors for a couple for this couple of the ICs and for the main card edge connector, and we also have one decoupling capacitor that we're going to have on the board. Okay, so that's our first schematic, mostly providing our headers and the two buttons that we're going to have for signals, clock signals. The next is going to be a set of switches. So again, we're going to have 3 headers that are going to provide us with 24 signals that we can patch into the board being tested, and we just have pull downs on those switches. So each of these is going to be 8-pin dip switches that we will be able to use, set highs and lows for those connectors. So this might be like testing the ALU would be our A argument, this would be our B argument, and this would be for selecting the appropriate ALU function that will be under test. Okay, so that will give us 24 switches for signals. Also have just an extra header that we're going to provide that's basically just going to be for ground signals. So whatever, we'll be able to use it again as a patch point for ground signals. Okay, so that's our second schematic for our switches. And then our last schematic will be a display element that we'll have on the jig. So again, we'll have another 8-pin header, and this time this is going to be for inputs that we want to see the whether the signals are high or low. So those inputs will come into a 74LS245 that we use as a buffer and a driver. We have just a little 1K resistor network, and then we'll have what'll be a 10 LED bar, LED bar display that we will use to be able to visualize the state of the 8 input signals. Okay, so that's our those are the 3 schematics for our full jig. And let's take a look at our PCB design now. Okay, so this is our PCB board. And you can see the top half of our board, we have our backplane connector where the card being tested will be plugged in. And then we have the 4 headers that are going to basically break out, give us access to to each of the 32 pins on the card, Again, A1 through 32, C1 through 32, and those will be available to be used with patch cables. And then here's that additional ground header that will give us access to any ground signals that we need to feed into the card for testing. Over here we have our power section. Here's our 5-volt power connector. We have our bypass capacitor and 100 microfarad decoupling capacitor here. We have our power LED and a current limiting resistor. So that's the top half of our board. And the bottom half of our board has all of our breakout headers that are basically available as inputs to patch into the card being tested. So we have our switch, our switches here, switch array, 8-pin switch here, 1, 2, and 3, and then our headers to bring those out to be able to be patched in to our card that's being tested. And then here's our header that will expose our buttons, the state of our buttons. Again, we'll have a positive and a negative signal for each of the buttons we brought out to the header. And then we also have 2 VCC points and 2 ground points that we can use to patch into the card being tested. And then here is our display, our 8-bit display section that we would be able to patch into the header and look at the output signals coming from the card. And then lastly, here's our two button or our 2 clocks that we will have available on the card, right? A button, the button and a display for the button, and button 2 in our display. And then just going through some, again, the 74LS14 for a little bit of debouncing and some being a driver for the button signals that are needed. Okay, so that's our board. I am not showing you the copper fills that are on the boards. Let me see, just because it's easier to see all of the routing. What? Oops, no. Let me click here. Right, it says copper zone invisible. I can make those visible, and you see that again. Here's our top power copper fill, and then right our bottom ground plane copper pour. So those are there and present, but I generally won't show those on the PCBs any longer because it's just difficult to see all the routing. Okay, so that's our testing jig. We can take a look at that in 3D. Right, so we don't have 3D models for all of our components, but right, that's our testing jig. So the card under test, plug in here. Want to give us some room for the breakout headers to be here, so that they're convenient for us to access. Power connects in here, and again, these are our headers here. These will be our switches will be set down here. Our switch output headers will be here that we can patch into the breakout, the pin breakouts for our card, and then any of our output signals, right? We'll be able to feed 8 output signals into our display header here, and we'll be able to see that on the LED bar graph down here, right? And we'll have our buttons here that we can use for 2 clock signals that we can provide into the board for testing. Okay, so that represents our board. By the time you view this, hopefully this will be off to fabrication, and then I'll be able to get that populated and really start our testing. So that'll be a good milestone when we get the board, our testing jig completed, and we're able to validate our clock card. That'll be kind of a significant milestone, I think, in our our physical implementation phase of the project. Okay, so that kind of ends my overview for the testing board. So now I want to, for those that want to hang out, I want to talk a little bit about kind of a little bit changes in direction since learnings that we've made since doing the clock PC board. So we're looking at that now. So I got some feedback from some viewers, and I also just had some impressions that I formed as part of populating the board. So one of the comments that I received was, well, hey, this is just really over-engineered. And yeah, I own that and I accept that. And we kind of spoke about that we are erring on the side of being over-engineering our solution a little bit. And at the end of the day, we're just doing that because we want to be able to increase the probability of a successful build, right, the first time. I don't really want to have to find out that we have issues with our cards and things because whatever, we just didn't use, we made lesser assumptions when we should have went a little bit more, applied more engineering. So I'm doing that with my eyes open. I'm over engineering on purpose to increase the probability of success on our first go around. So I own that. Another feedback was that, hey, well, you don't need that many, 100 microfarad capacitors and that many of them on a board this size is just, over engineering, and we're wasting money. So I kind of came to that real, I knew that when I was doing the PC board design, that I was going probably, again, over engineering. And it also was kind of evident when I was soldering up the board that the 100 microfarad caps were probably more than we needed, and 4 of them on the board was probably more than we really needed. So going forward, I'm not going to be using 100 microfarad caps. I think I'm going to cut that back, basically in half to 47 microfarad caps, and won't likely be using as many of them on subsequent boards. The other feedback was that, well, hey, why are you using all these this via matrix or the via array? That's not really necessary. That's really appropriate to be used on multi-layer boards, 4 and 6 layer boards. It's not really needed on just a 2-layer board. So again, that's part of my learning process, right? I'm trying to digest a whole lot of incomplete information to really, to get from 0 to what I say are kind of like intermediate level PC boards. So that's a lot of learning on my part, and so this probably wasn't an absolute correct use of the vias as far as the via matrix goes. So going forward, again, I think that's something that we're going to eliminate from our subsequent boards. I'm still likely going to continue to have, the strategic placement of current return path vias for the high-speed signals in certain areas. I'm probably going to continue to do that. I think that's still probably not necessary, but probably, it can't hurt and is a good practice. We're kind of like right on the edge of the signal frequencies on the board of having to kind of worry about those return path vias. It's generally like, at over 1 megahertz signal frequencies that becomes more important. So probably we could leave them out and be okay, but I'll probably continue to do that. So I think I addressed all those things. We're not going to use the via arrays going forward on our PC boards. Going to reduce our decoupling caps to 47 microfarads from 100, and also probably reduce the number of decoupling caps going forward. And so having the via matrix on this board and the extra caps is not going to affect us negatively on the board. It's just extra work that we didn't need to do, and extra capacitance we didn't really need to have, but it's not going to have any negative effect on the board. Okay, so that wraps up our full update. And again, our next video, I think, should be maybe taking a look at the populated testing harness. I'll do a short video for that. And then we'll look at the results from testing our PC board with the testing jig. So that's it for today. Until next time, thanks for watching.